The hosted archiving service provides four main levels of permissions for access into the environment. First is the account administrator, who's the person that's able to manage system settings, set up users, and set up data collectors. Search administrator is the individual who has the ability to create new searches and run searches against the entire global archive. The search user is the individual who can only access searches that were created by a search administrator and thus has been granted access to view the results of those searches. And then finally, the end user is the individual end user within an organization who can view and manage their own personal archive. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through a demonstration of the role and responsibility of the search administrator. The search administrator has the ability to run searches against the entire global archive. So once logged into the archive system, the search administrator will be able to see the search user interface. They'll be able to look at all of the existing searches that are currently in the archive environment. They can sort these searches and manage these searches many different ways. What's important to see here within these searches is the ability for the search administrator to click into one of these searches and be able to view the results of that search and continue to modify that search and manage that search as needed. For regulatory compliance, it's very important for the search administrator to be able to view audit trails of who has access into these searches and what actions have been created from the individual who's logged into that search. Search Administrator also has the ability to view searches and view keywords based on specific tags. You can see these based either as a list or you could do a cloud view to determine which ones are the most active tags within the archive. Now, the real power for the search administrator is to have that individual be able to actually create new searches. And for the search admin, we run three different types of searches for them. We have a simple search, which is the ability to put in a name. So we'll call this simple search 1. They have the ability to, we'll call it simple search 2. They have the ability to add those tags or categorizations to the message. So if we wanted to tag this as earnings or tag this as energy, we could. Search Administrator can now distribute the rights and the results of this search to somebody else within the organization. So what I want to do is I want to give permission to Jeff Richards to actually be able to log in through his credentials and see the results of the search that I'm creating right now. And the final two steps in the process would be putting in either a specific date range, either by choosing one of the predefined ranges, or going back and actually choosing a specific date for the time frame that you know you need to look for email from. So in this example, we're going to go back all the way to 1999 and choose a date range of January. And then finally, we can look at particular search terms, and maybe we want to look at the term earn. So you can run the search against the message. So we'll look at this criteria against the message body and or any attachments that are associated with that email. And this is a very wide-reaching search. So this is no specific users. It's just a specific date range, and we're looking for one key term. Many search admins have specific criteria they're looking for, and that criteria may have some additional options that they need to look at. So as we scroll down under this advanced search, you'll notice we now have the ability to search specifically against the subject, the sender, the recipients. Maybe the message had or did not have specific words, or maybe it had a particular attachment name that you were looking for. If that still isn't enough options for the search administrator to find what it is he or she is looking for, we provide the ability to run a custom search, and that custom search actually exposes the power of our indexing language so that you can write custom search queries. And we give you an example of how some of these queries are written. So you can look at a term query, a phrase query, a field query, a Boolean query, range queries, wildcard queries, etc., etc. Ultimately, we want to provide as many options for the search admin to put in the appropriate criteria so that he or she can find exactly what it is they're looking for on that first search. So we're going to keep things very simple for this demonstration. We're going to look at the term earn or any different grammatical variations of earn because fuzzy searching is always turned on. And we're going to look at the time frame of January 1st to the 31st of 1999. So by saving and displaying results, we're going to have the search results immediately available to us. What's happening behind the scenes is the archive service is searching through those hundreds of thousands of messages within the cloud, and we're presenting the results right back to that search admin. And this is also the view that a search user would have access to when they logged in. So just what's important to point out here is the ability to see how many results came back. Out of about 500,000 messages in the archive, we came back with 32, and the results came back within about 7 seconds, going all the way back to 1999. Now, the power of the search administrator doesn't stop at being able to just create those searches. The search admin can also be treated as a search user, and as a search user has the ability now to manage the results of this search. So let me kind of take off the search admin hat, put on the search user hat, and walk you through what it would look like for this search user to manage the results that are presented here. So within the 32 results that we have, you'll notice that the keywords were highlighted that we were looking for, and we're looking for different grammatical variations of earn or earnings. In order to actually look at the content of the message, I would simply just click on the subject line of this email, and it would expose that message in two forms. We expose the text view, which is really the raw original formatted message, and we also exposed an original view, which is the message as it was formatted to the client. So in the original view, we would have any links, attachments, images. They would all be located here. Now, typically a search user may also be referred to as an auditor or an investigator, and the the requirements that auditors or investigators have when they're searching email is to be able to mark messages in a particular way so that when they export them, they're relevant to the case that they're working on. As a search user is managing the system, they have the ability to add comments to specific messages. So they may want to note that this message was in a violation of a particular requirement or a particular policy in the organization. They may want to add specific tags to this message. Maybe this had to do with attorney-client privilege. And they also might want to be able to mark the message up in a number of different ways. So they might want to mark it as starred, saved, reviewed, or needs attention. They also have the ability to export individual messages immediately to either PDF, PST, EML, or MIME format, or they could forward messages, a copy of a message, directly out of the archive and send it to a different URL. Could be right back to their own inbox, could be to assistants within a law firm that they're working for. So once the search user has gone through and managed the marking up and just kind of managed the additional searching, they may say or realize that they want to narrow their search results down a bit more. So what we do is we provide the ability to actually find within the results, meaning search within these 32 messages, to narrow down the criteria. So maybe we want to shrink that date range down to a week, or add a particular sender, particular recipient, or modify the words that we're looking for. Once we've gone through and we've run that search and we've completed it and we've data mined as much as we feel as we need to, the final step in the process for the search user or the search admin is typically going to be exporting the data and getting it into a format that would be required to proceed forward with the investigation. So by clicking on the Change Views tab, you have the ability to export to PST, file, text, or PDF format, and you can do so based on either all of the messages that are in the results or just the messages as you mark them up. So remember that we marked one message up as reviewed, and if we wanted to, we could export that message to a PST or a number of different formats, or we could just export every message in here. You'll also notice that we have this legal hold feature. This is important for compliance purposes in order to make sure that messages are always available within the archive system regardless of policy and retention, that if a message is part of an active or ongoing investigation, it needs to maintain itself in that archive. And that's a quick view of the features from a search administrator as well as a search user within the archiving service.